There's no reason why that couldn't be your story.
You don't have an expiration date.
Ooh, I love that.
The actual pages. Like, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
This is the Authors and Agents podcast. Vanessa, I am super excited to have you here today. I cannot wait to talk about your book, A Tall, Dark Trouble. So can you please tell me about it?
Yes. So first, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so excited. There's something about like being invited to a podcast that makes me feel like extra special.
Oh, yeah.
But my book, A Tall Dark Trouble, releases August 29th this month. Oh, so it is a YA contemporary story. It is, you can think of it like a Latine practical magic. I took a lot of inspiration from the Owen sisters because I love them. Like, who doesn't like Sandra
I love
Bullock
them.
and oh my God, I forgot her name, but yeah, her too.
Yeah.
So, A Tall Dark Trouble is about three Cuban American brujas navigating love, magic, and murder. It takes place both in 1980s Cuba and current day Miami. And in current day Miami, we have my characters, Delphi and Ophelia, who are twins. And they're not only dealing with a generational love curse that they inherited from their mother, but they're also having newfound abilities. So one of my twins, Delphi, she can taste emotions. She's what you call la lengua, the tongue. And my other character can see visions from touching objects. She is el ojo, the eye. But not only are they dealing with that, they're also having premonitions about a series of murders and putting them on the path of a killer that's targeting their own kind. And then in 1980s Cuba, we have Anita, teenage Anita, who's dealing with her own magic and murder. And she's under the watchful and oppressive eye of her mother and the Cuban government. You know, no pressure. But
No pressure.
the story of all three women, they collide and intertwine across oceans and generations.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It has like everything I love, like dual timelines, magic, murder, curses.
Murder. Who
There's
doesn't love a little
nothing
murder?
better. Who doesn't love just a little murder sprinkled in? Oh my goodness. Well, I am so excited for you. It is such a joy and a wonder to have your debut novel coming out into the world, right? So tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about your journey to this point to having your book be published.
Yeah. So publishing journeys are always a lot of fun, right?
Oh, so much fun.
So I started publishing. Oh, well, I started trying to write towards publishing like in my mid 20s.
Okay.
And it took me around 6 years and I wrote two books within those 6 years. I was also working towards my creative writing degree. I have kids, so there was a lot going on. And I was getting nothing but rejections. But, well, not just rejections. Also during that time, I acquired a small publishing deal that fell
Okay.
through. And I acquired also my first agent, who we also parted ways with. So there was a lot going on. But A Tall Dark Trouble was like my comfort book. I was writing that just for me.
I
And
love that.
yeah, yeah. And I had, up until that, like, mind you, 6 years had gone by already. I was already at the point where I'm like, I don't care about publishing. I'm doing this for me. I'm just gonna write for the joy of it. Except I
Yes.
was writing out of spite, not joy.
Yeah.
But I started writing A Tall Dark Trouble, and I was instilling a lot of myself into it. I was putting like the family values that I had, the magic that I kind of grew up with, which is, like the Santeria beliefs, and just what I know, what I grew up with and
Yeah.
what I know. And, still publishing, the diversity in publishing is still, a long process. It's not how it should be. But, and I was wondering, I was like, does anyone even want a Cuban story or a story that takes place in Cuba? Like, I didn't know that if this was gonna,
Right.
if anybody was gonna want this, especially in the YA space. So during that time, I was also like being in school also helped a lot while I was writing this because I was workshopping it. I was in screenwriting and I had to write the whole entire book in screenwriting format,
Ooh.
which helps like get rid of the fluff,
Yeah.
and get down to like the plot. So that really helped me, I think, and fine-tuned my writing skills. In 2020, start of pandemic year and all that fun stuff. Not fun
Super fun.
stuff. Yeah.
You
Uh,
can say that sarcastically. It's okay.
yeah. So in 2020, I graduated from university and I was only missing like a big chunk of the ending of A Tall Dark Trouble. I just did not know how to end it. And I
Hmm.
joined a mentorship program called Las Musas for Latinx
Okay.
creators. And my mentor was Nina Moreno. I don't know if you've heard of her stories. Like she wrote Don't Date Rosa Santos. Like her
I
stories are
feel like
just
her
beautiful.
I feel like her name sounds super familiar to me. I'm gonna
Yeah,
write
I'm
it
sure
down.
maybe if you saw the cover, like you would say, "Oh yeah, I know that."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she like totally hooked me up with the story. Like she knew what I was trying to get at and she helped me connect all the points. And I was able to finish the story in a way that resonated with me and resonated with her because she's also Cuban American. So she helped me whip it into shape. And thanks to her, I was able to finish, writing A Tall Dark Trouble. After that, after I finished, I joined Twitter pitch contests like Latinx Pitch and DV Pit.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like I told you, like by that point, I'm already like, I don't really care if this happens or not.
Which was probably good at this point that you were just like, I'm just gonna try, and if it doesn't come back, like it's a little
Yeah,
bit less hurtful, right? Because it can be such a like heartbreaking process.
it can. It can. When you're receiving rejections left and right, like you're just like,
Yeah.
at the point of giving up. And that's usually when things happen, when you're at the point of
Right.
giving up, right?
Yes.
So I joined those Twitter pitch contests and I snagged an agent. I got Danielle Burby. As soon as
Mm.
I met with her, I knew she was the right fit. Like her passion just like radiated off the screen. I loved her. I love her because she's still with me.
Yes.
And I was on sub for like around 5 months before offers started coming in and Zando came in with a preempt. And then from there, yeah, everything has been like a whirlwind. Everything happens. So when everything before had taken forever, years of just to get a rejection, just to get no, and then
Right.
all these yeses back to back, I'm still kind of like paralyzed from the, I'm still like numb. I'm like, wow, this is all happening.
Yep, and you're just this close to having it real life in your hands and in everybody's hands, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
I
Well,
mean,
oh, and you probably have a finished copy.
I do.
Yeah, so it's already in your hands.
It's already in my hands, yeah, and it still hasn't
I
hit
lo-
me fully. I
no,
don't know what
no.
it's gonna take.
I don't know. Maybe just like an outpouring of people who are like, I loved it. But maybe then still you'll be like, no, that's not real.
No. Are you sure you're talking about me? You probably read a different book.
Well, I love that. I love that journey, and I think it's one that a lot of other authors can relate to because this is such a long distance journey, right? For most people, it's not like, okay, you write one book, you sign an agent, you get a huge deal, right? Like you have to go through long process and trial and error and learning about yourself and about yourself as a writer. So I'm glad you stuck with it. I'm glad you wrote this book out of spite. And because look at you now. Look at you now.
Yeah, look, it works. Being
It
spiteful.
worked. Being spiteful. Way to go. Well, Vanessa, looking back on your querying journey, with you're okay. With your, like hindsight 2020, what
Uh-huh.
would your like top tip be for querying authors?
Um, okay, so for querying authors, not to sound like a broken record, but do your due diligence and look up the agents. Make sure you actually want to work with them. Like make sure no agent. Wait, let me make sure I'm saying this right. No agent is better than a bad agent.
Yes.
And it's so true. Like with my first book, I was such a terror. I was just sending off huge batches of queries, not really caring, just hoping something would stick, basically.
Right. Right. You were like, if I just get one who's interested, that'll be great.
Right,
But
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
But it,
And I
it
think
doesn't work
it's
out that way, yeah.
no, because I mean, you had an agent before that you had to part ways with, right?
Right.
Um, and that can be just as frustrating because you feel like you've like made it, you got an agent, and then you've got to restart the whole process. And I've seen that happened to many of my author friends who sign with someone, it doesn't go anywhere, and they part ways, and they have to re-query, which is a hard process. Like, why do it so many times?
Exactly, exactly. When you've gotten so close and then the goalpost just keeps moving further away, it
Yeah.
becomes very disheartening for sure.
Yeah, it does. And I think there's enough agents out there that it can be daunting to be like, I have to research every single one, or I have to research and find people who are actually interested in what I'm
Mhm.
writing. But it's so worth it, and it goes such a long way. And I think too, you I don't know, at least for me, whenever I've queried and I have like a list of people I'm going to query. And then if it doesn't work out with any of those, it's like, okay, well, that's like always like my self-imposed like end of the line for whatever manuscript. And then you can
Right.
shelve it and move on to the next, right? Because it can be
Exactly.
really hard to shelve something as well.
It is really tough to have to shelve something, and that's why I always recommend working on the next thing. No matter what journey or what level you're on, just work on the next thing. Even right now, all this debuting going on, like I'm still concentrating on the next book that I need to release or the next book that I want to write. And I'm trying
Yeah.
to, regain that joy of just like I'm doing this for me. I write
Yep.
because I enjoy it, and this is my path. And then the books don't disappear into the ether. They're there if you ever need to unshelve it and show it to your new agent or whatnot. You never know
Right.
what you're going to need or what you can use or reuse in the future.
Yeah. And I think too, it's just good to remember that even if you shelve something, like I have a few maybe two shelved novels that I adore and love with all my heart. And it's
Yeah,
like, you know what? I don't think they'll be published, but I learned something from writing them and revising them and can look back now and still learn, right? And I think that's
for
a good
sure.
perspective to have as a querying author is like, okay, even if nothing comes of this, I'm learning from it, even though that
Exactly.
can be hard to hear sometimes.
It is super hard to hear, but yeah, every single book that you've written is a feat on its own, and you're
Yeah.
like, you know, you're honing your skills as a writer. So it's not that it didn't do anything. It
Yeah.
definitely did. It definitely pushed you forward.
Yeah, it wasn't a waste of time. It wasn't a waste of time.
Never, never. It's never a waste of time.
So, my next question is a two-parter. I'd
Okay.
love to know what the hardest part of writing is for you, and then the hardest part of being an author.
Okay, so the hardest part of writing for me is it's weird because it's like it's the actual act itself.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
It's sitting down to actually write, finding the motivation, not the motivation, the dedication, because you have to dedicate time. You have to force yourself to show up every day. Not every day. You just have to show up in one shape or
Yeah,
form or another. Whether it's brainstorming or if this is the career that you want to make, like you just have to put effort into it, like anything. And it makes it hard, especially when you have day job and kids and going to
mm,
school. Like there's always something that is a distraction. So always carving out like little time, like bits and pieces of your time here and there to work on something. It's difficult to do. It's difficult for me to do. Like it's difficult to find that time to write,
yeah.
and then the dedication to do it, and not just be like, oh, I'll get to it eventually. Don't worry.
Well, you have so many other things you could be like, well, this is more important in this exact moment that I get this done, taking care of my kids, food, school, whatever, you know. So it can be really hard to set aside that time. As a parent, I write on my phone a lot.
Yeah.
Like in my notes app on my iPhone or something like that. That's how I try to fit it in, even when I can't really fit it in.
Right. Like the car pickup line for me is my golden
Yep.
hour. Like I'll get there really early. Plus, I don't like, battling other parents to like get there to the front.
No. Yeah.
So I get there early. I bring my laptop because like my thumbs are too big to type on the phone, but I'll bring my laptop and work in the car whenever I can.
That is smart. That is
Yeah.
smart. Hey, anyway, you got to fit it in, as long as you have the dedication, to make it work. Even if it's 5 minutes at a time, that is something because 5 minutes adding up over time is great. Better than nothing.
Exactly. And a lot of times too, what stops me from moving forward is my own self-doubt. Like
Mm,
my imposter syndrome is like, maybe you're not smart enough yet to write the scene, or and then that stops me from wanting to continue writing. And it's just constantly like battling those self-doubt moments to just get it on the page, because revision is when it really shines anyway.
Yes, yes. You just have to finish the first draft and then you can
Exactly.
revise it 12 times, but you've got to finish the first draft.
12, 30, 100, more or
However
less.
many. However many. So far being an author, having you've had people reading your book already early, right? Like what's been the hardest part of that so far?
Of being an author, yeah. So I'm in the very early stages, but I would say that some of the hardest. Oh, I'm a nervous turtle. Like, I have social
Mm,
anxiety. I'm a very nervous person. So public speaking engagements, like speaking engagements, are the hardest part for me.
yeah.
I'm so looking forward to like my debut party, but at the same time, like kind of dreading it.
Oh, I
And I
bet.
don't want to feel that way, Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so far, like that's been the hardest part for me, is reconciling that I do have to be a public figure now. I do have to put myself out there and step out of my comfort zone. But at the same time, like that's good. It's always good to push yourself a little bit further than what you're comfortable with and used to. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. And I don't love public speaking either, and I always find that I get really nervous right up until it starts, and then I'm like, once I get into it a little bit, I'm like, okay, whew, this isn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. So
Exactly.
hopefully it'll be like that, and you'll have people who are just excited to be there for you and your book.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes. I
Yeah,
know that's like the mindset change that I keep trying to do, like
yes,
I could do
but
this
it's
if I
hard.
could. It is
It's
hard.
hard. So you're not alone in that at all. So I want to flip this question the other side. So what's the best part of being a writer for you and the best part of being an author?
Yeah, so okay, so we were just talking about like the mindset change, right? Like this is what I love. I love thinking positively of my passion, because this is my passion. I love creating stories. I love bringing characters to life. It feels very much like playing, when you're
Mm,
writing sometimes. Not always, sometimes it feels like pulling teeth, but a lot of the times it feels like playing. Like, it feels like back to when you were a kid and playing Barbies and making up stories and coming up with plots. So when you can make a career out of playing, it just feels
yeah,
so rewarding. Also
definitely.
meeting others who feel the same way. Like, I love geeking out with readers and other writers. Like, the writing community has been wonderful to step into.
Oh, the writing community is the
The
best in the
best.
world. Some of my best, writing friends, real friends are people who like I met during the height of good Twitter, and
Mhm.
like I've never met them in person, but I consider them dear close friends, because we've read several, drafts of several manuscripts and we talk all the time, and it's like I feel like there's something special about this passion, this love that we have for writing, for stories that really you can bond with people over so well, even if you've never met them in real life, which is so fun.
Yeah, exactly. Most of my best friends are online that I've never met, and
Yeah.
I want to so badly.
My husband is like, that means they're not real friends. I'm like, no, you don't
Yeah.
understand. They are real friends.
Yeah, I'll always say like, "Oh, I've known this person already like 11 years, 7 years," and
Right.
my husband's like, "When? I've never met them in my life. Like, I've been with you for that long. I've never met them." Like, well,
Yeah.
I see them every day.
Right. I talk to them all the time. Um, so now I want to ask a little bit about your writing process. So, are you a pantser? Are you more of a planner? Do you fall somewhere in between, like a flashlight plotter? Like, what does that look like for you?
I would definitely say somewhere in between. And every book has been like a different journey. It's like a different
Yeah.
pregnancy. Like, you're creating a
Yes.
different
Each
child.
one, each baby is different.
Exactly, exactly. I saw the term once, exploratory writer, and I
Hmm.
can't remember where I saw it, but I was like, oh, that fits so well, because like I'm exploring, I am learning as I go, and that is very much how I plot and outline. I usually I'm lucky enough where I know my characters pretty well and I know what I want them to experience early on. So then
Yeah.
the brainstorming stage is just writing down like the big plot points that I want to happen. And same thing with like if there's a mystery involved, I'll write down everything that's to be discovered, you know. And then I'll probably just like jump into straight into drafting, and I'll get about to like the quarter point where I'll have to stop, look back and be like, okay, do I have a better feel of my character now? And then start like going into to outlining a little more in depth. But I'm not so meticulous when it comes to outlining. It's more like big picture things for sure.
Oh, I like that though. I mean, and I think, you've got a general idea, but it does take some writing and getting into your story, I feel like, to at least for me. I know some people who stick to their outline, they write a 30-page outline and they stick to it like they don't make any changes, which like props to
Boggles.
them. I could never
Yeah.
do it. But I am very similar where I'm like, okay, I have this general idea. I have like big plot points in my head, but let's like figure out if this is going to work or if I need to adjust it a little bit, which gives you some wiggle room. And like you were saying,
Yeah.
can allow you to like play a little bit more, right? Like if
Right.
feel something different, you can always try it out.
Exactly. Like when I'm in the halfway point of my story, like my your characters will usually tell you who they are.
Yes.
They're coming out of your subconscious, like trickling out somehow.
Hmm. Yes,
And
they do that.
yeah, so then you have something outlined, like an action you need them to take that doesn't make sense for them anymore. So I always like re-outline after different plot points. Although that makes it really difficult during revisions because sometimes you'll go off on a tangent in one plot and you don't know where that's heading and it never heads anywhere. So you have to like like for A Tall Dark Trouble, a little crazy fact, I did not know who the killer was until the very end when I
Oh my
drafted.
gosh, I love that.
Writing, I'm like, who's doing this? I have no idea. And and until the very end, I figured out who it was, and then I had to, of course, during revisions, go back and like,
Right.
add red herrings, all this,
Hmm.
juicy stuff. But like,
That
yeah,
is so funny. That is so
sometimes
funny because I
outlining a
think,
little better.
yeah, I think sometimes with mysteries, people usually know who the killer is, but you were still figuring it out. It was a mystery to you, even.
Exactly. I was there with the reader. Like, we're both in the dark. Don't worry.
That is the greatest thing ever. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Well, talking about revisions. So obviously now, you've got an agent, you've got an editor who help you through this process. But what do you do on your own before you send it to your agent to like make sure it's in tip-top shape?
Um, so I'll usually go through a few beta readers, like trusted beta readers that I have, and their
Hmm.
feedback is just, like I have one, well, I have multiple beta readers that just give the most invaluable feedback that I can that I can ask for. I'm telling
Yeah.
them to go into the editing career, but passing it through beta readers, going on my own, I do reverse outlines all the time when I'm revising. So after I'm
Okay.
already done, I'll just like, what was my original intent with this? Did I meet that intention? Did I reach the theme? Can you feel the emotional impacts of everything? Does the mystery feel real? Now I know, of course, like with what I just said with that I didn't know the killer. Like, you're like, how
You
would this feel real?
you figured it out. You figured it
Yeah,
out.
exactly. And A Tall Dark Trouble has been rewritten so many times. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's good now.
I don't
But
think it would
yeah,
have made it to this point if it wasn't good. So don't worry about it.
I was like, people are not gonna trust you if you say that you didn't know the killer.
No, I think that is so great. I love that. As someone who writes mysteries, I'm like, sometimes I don't know who the killer is, I guess too, like until you
Yeah.
get a little farther into it.
Yeah, you ask yourself like, who would be the less likely, or like who has
Right,
the most
right.
motivation, or for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do a lot of reverse outlining once I'm done, and I just want to make sure that it's meeting the original purpose, that the ending feels well-rounded and full circle, and that the
Hmm.
characters have met their arcs. I read the story Genius by Laura. I always want to say Laura Croft, but she's not Laura Croft. Laura Croft
She
is
is
that.
not. She's the
Laura
Tomb
Cron.
Raider.
Yeah. Laura Cron, I think is her name. But so following that third rail, the emotional third rail, making sure that the characters are acting within their arc.
Hmm.
So those are all the things I look for when I'm revising, yeah. And I'll revise quite a few times before sending to my agent.
Okay. Well, that's great. And I love that you have beta readers, still at this point, which is so, I mean, beta readers are the best, especially when you found the right ones, because I think we've all had maybe not a great beta reader who maybe doesn't give
Mhm.
feedback in the best way. But when you have ones who are like, give tactful feedback, that is just so invaluable to get those fresh eyes on it. Because it can be really hard to do it all yourself when you're so immersed in the story, you're not seeing maybe holes or where they are. So I'm glad you have that.
Yeah, exactly. Once you're so into your own story, like it's hard to take a step back and view it with an objective eye. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever joined Agent Query Connect back in the days. Like it doesn't exist anymore, or not in the way that it used to be.
I don't
But
know if
you
I did.
know, well, I found a lot of my beta readers through there, and it was yeah, it was in my mid 20s, so it was a long time ago, 10 years ago. Um, but yeah, that was very helpful. Beta readers for sure. Are you're gonna have to dig through stone. What is it? What's the good metaphor here? You're gonna have to dig through stone before you find a diamond. I have no idea. I'm not a geographer or whatever.
A geologist?
Geologist.
Maybe it's,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
like finding a diamond in the rough, something like that.
There
You're
you
going to
go.
have to try a lot of beta readers, right? I have been
Yeah.
through my fair share of beta readers to where I'm like, okay, your advice. Well, it also can be hard too because you don't want too many. You don't want to have too much different advice. But also,
Yeah.
I've been through some beta readers where I'm like, you're not nice, and
No.
I cannot read your feedback because it's just not nice. Like you
Yeah.
can give
Yeah.
constructive criticism without being mean.
Exactly. I I think you could tell a lot of times when you're receiving feedback what's coming out of a want to really help and what's coming from like a bitter place. And you
Yes,
just have to learn what even I mean, my editors and my agent is great for giving feedback, but no matter what, this is your story at the end of the day, and you always have to look at even feedback with a critical eye and be like, is this
right,
really the direction I want my story to go? Because it's your story, no matter what.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can be a hard thing to learn. That can be like through like all these other processes and all these other things that you learn going through this, that can be something you have to, get a little tough skin, but also know how to pick through that advice and be like, okay, yes, I'm going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
learning process. We're exploratory writers, all of us.
Yes, we are. Okay, I only have a few questions left for you. These are all fun questions. These are really fun, easy questions. I'd love to know something your readers wouldn't necessarily know about you.
Um, so my deepest, darkest secret.
Oh gosh. Let's get real.
I'm probably gonna regret admitting this, but you know what? Since I write about the supernatural, it's on brand for me. But when I was a kid, I used to see ghosts. And my mom would freak out and
As she should.
yeah, and she wanted to take me to an exorcist and all this fun, this she wanted to like cleanse my soul. I have no idea.
Oh my goodness.
But I think as little kids, like you're more attuned to that, spiritual world. Maybe I don't know if you're a believer or not, but yeah, I think that's why I gravitate towards the supernatural so much now. Like now I could write
Yeah.
about it now that I don't have to look at it.
Right. Now that
Yeah.
you don't see it necessarily.
Exactly. So when I write about ghosts, just know that it comes from facts, from a
Yes.
place of truth.
From real life. I have never seen a ghost, but I used to work in property management. So I would show people houses. I would go and show them empty houses that they wanted to rent. And
Right.
I have had my fair share of spooky experiences in old, creepy houses. I had this one
But
house that was very old in Portland, Oregon, where I live. And I'm just going to tell the story because it was so
yeah, I
creepy.
want to hear it. I want to
But,
hear it.
but I just remember, so I had to take videos too of these houses, like to like promo them. And I was always terrified because one of my coworkers, she sees ghosts. And so
Mm.
she would always be like, oh, yeah, there's a ghost in that house. And I was like, don't tell me that because that's terrifying. But I would go into this, and there was this like creepy downstairs basement room. And I was just creeped out. I took this video and I was like running out of there. But I was finishing up, and then a light goes off in the kitchen. And I did not touch the light switch. And so I
Okay.
booked it out of the house, Vanessa. I was like, I ran as far as I could, all the way up to the sidewalk. And as soon as I turned around, the light was back on.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
I took one single step back towards the house, and it turned off again. And I was like, I am out of here. So I ran up to the door, I locked it, and I left. And I told our like maintenance guys, I was like, there's something wrong with that light. Like it's finicky. You need to go check the wiring. And they're like, nope, light works perfect. It's totally fine. And I was like, oh no, this is so terrifying.
Monster House. Oh gosh, that's
Monster house. There was a couple other experiences too with some loud banging in a very empty house that there was definitely something creepy in. It was just not it was spooky. There was
yeah,
some
you can
spooky
feel
stuff.
it. Like even if you like, sometimes people can't see it. There's different types of like mediums or psychics, right? And they can either
Yeah.
feel, see. I don't want to say taste because that's weird, but yeah, maybe taste
Maybe
something off in
taste,
the
but
air.
ugh, I wouldn't want to taste that.
Yeah, no. So yeah, when I was little, I had a few scary ghost experiences that were traumatizing. But
Yeah, I could see them being traumatizing as a child.
but not obviously not that bad since I'm writing about ghosts now and I'm like, ooh, cool, like haunted houses.
You've worked through it. You've
I've
gotten
worked
over
through
it,
it.
which is
Yeah.
great. Good,
I
good.
saw I saw fear. I looked fear in the face and said, I can take you.
Right. You're like, you don't scare me.
Just a little, just don't show up now.
Just a tiny, tiny bit. Let's not. We're good. We don't need you here.
I know, I'm just kidding, actually, just sorry. I
Where's
respect
my
you.
sage?
Exactly.
Um, oh my goodness. Well, that is a good fact, and I bet that's very on brand for you. That's very on brand, so I like
Right?
it.
I was like, I'm just gonna share it because,
Yeah, I love
they
it.
deserve to know who they're dealing with.
Yes, yes. So my next question, I'd love to know how many bookshelves you have in your house because I can see some behind you already.
Yes. So I had a hard time answering this question because I'm not sure if this counts as one or two. I'm gonna count it as two because it's a fat bookcase and I love
Oh,
it.
yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Count it as two.
So I would say three bookshelves and then random piles of books everywhere on my nightstand,
Yeah,
like at the kitchen table, everywhere.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Every single person who's answered this question has said the exact same thing. Like, oh, I have a few bookshelves, and then I just have books everywhere.
Exactly. Like here on my desk, just cluttered everywhere. Like they're just fall. I need another bookshelf.
Yep, yep.
I
I
need to
need
have
many
four.
bookshelves, but sometimes you don't have enough room for them.
Exactly. There needs to come up. They need to come up with like different shelving methods, like something that you can hang on your ceiling, or well, they've come up with a bunch of clever little shelving ideas, right? Like I've
I'm
seen a
sure.
tree one on the corner that you can like. It's like a
Oh,
fake tree, and then you could put your books there. Like I want that so bad.
oh yes. That is a good, very, very artistic way to do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, Vanessa, I have one last question for you. I'd love to know what your favorite book is right now. This is not your favorite book of all time, just something you've really loved recently.
Recently. So within the last year, oh, that too, well,
That's
kind of
fine.
recent.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
I loved The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas.
Okay.
That book is
I
just so spooky and atmospheric. I've loved it. I love that one. And I'm currently reading Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I love everything Emily Henry. Like all her books just make me feel like the characters are my friends, and I love them.
Isn't that the best when you're just like, I know you character and you are real to me,
Right?
even
Like
though you're
I'm
just
thinking,
in a
I
book.
wonder how they're doing. I wonder if they're still
Yes.
together.
Of course they are. They're still together.
Of course. That's like the number one.
Don't.
I'm sorry, no jinxing, no.
Vanessa. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. I am so
Thank
excited for you.
you.
So you have A Tall Dark Trouble coming out August 29th, but you also have an anthology. You're part of an anthology, Night of the Living Queers, which comes out the same day. That's so exciting. A 2-for-1 for you.
A 2-for-1, yep.
And that's going to be another spooky story, right?
It is. So it's a short, spooky story. It takes place under a blue moon on Halloween night, like all the other stories. That's the running theme throughout the anthology. And yeah, like a haunted hotel. It's called Welcome to Hotel Paranoia. So it's
Ooh.
like a little retelling on the Hotel California song. Short story, haunted manor, not haunted manor, haunted hotel, and a vengeful Central American deity.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's so
And
exciting.
definitely check it out because I'm still reading it, but all the other stories so far have been amazing. I love it.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love spooky stuff. That'll be so fun. What a great Halloween book,
Right? And then A Tall
right?
Dark Couple is also pretty spooky, so if you want to buy both, like whoever wants to get both, they're a great pairing.
Yes, they are. And well, of course, they have to buy a Tall Dark Trouble. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you a little bit more. And, I'm sure everyone listening who's querying or just a reader of yours is really grateful for your journey, your feedback, your advice. And everyone make sure that you go out and buy A Tall Dark Trouble.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful to talk to you today and putting me at ease. Like, this is wonderful.